Hey guys, so it's been a minute since I did this, and apparently the last time I did it this month, it somehow didn't record the video, so I wasn't able to upload it. But hey, welcome back. It is the Docs as Raw live stream. I am going to be working on UNSETIC Files, Lost and Found today, which, if you follow me on Patreon, Twitter, or Instagram, you know is one of my projects that I will be working on for the first half of the year, with the goal of actually getting it done by, I think I said May, I think I said. So, yeah, with no further ado, I'm going to kick over to our live writing screen and I will give you some additional information on the story as I get started with working on chapter 23. So, Unsetic Files Lost and Found is set directly after the events of Bearing Songs in Silence, in which we saw Tim McConaway and Bridget O'Connell meet and bond, although it really wasn't their first meeting because there's some connections back there in backstory that neither of them were really that aware of until all of a sudden it smacked them in the face. It also follows the events by a couple of years actually of The Measure of Dreams, where Kate and AJ first crossed across through the portals to see the rest of the known universe and met people like Triskel and Bjarter and all of those fun people. But to get you caught up to where we are now, if you haven't checked my Patreon, you can see that the first at least 6 chapters without actually being a patron. And then if you want the rest of the chapters, you can actually become a patron of mine for a buck a month, and you get access to everything I post there, which is kind of awesome. You also get awesome cat pictures of my cats, Katie the House Panther and Miracle the Tabby. But anyway, I am digressing rather seriously. So, Unsetic Files Lost and Found starts out with basically AJ returning from a run with Kate. Kate's had an arm injury based on some shenanigans that took place while they were out and about, and AJ gets a phone call, and it is the phone call that takes place at the end of Bearing Songs in Silence. Apologies for any spoilers there, but basically she gets a phone call and it says, "Hey, your brother's alive." And AJ's like, "What the hell?" So that sets her off on this trip to go and confirm for herself that yes, my brother is actually alive. And oh crap, now what do we do? Because we've been looking for him for 18 months and now all of a sudden he's back, but he's not the same as he was before. So, Lost and Found is the story of AJ, Kate, and Tim reconnecting, of meeting Bridget, of solving some mysteries surrounding how Tim managed to make it home without seemingly anyone helping him. Um, and now, the point where I'm at in the story right now is they're actually on Mydiar and they are about to go and talk to Bjarter, who is the same guy in that you met in The Measure of Dreams, who was going to craft Tim's armor and his sword that was ordered for him by his master in the Cabal. And Tim, of course, is still really concerned about the Cabal, about whether or not they still have power over him and all kinds of stuff like that, which is part of what has made him so different and so much more reserved and held in than he was before they lost him. So, in an effort to solve some mysteries and to get some answers, the Kate, AJ, and Bridget and Tim all went across the portals to well, first they started off on another planet, and then that's where they picked up Triskel, and now they're on Mydiar, and they're going to go and talk to Bjarter. They just got done talking to Bjarter's sister Christiana, and now they're actually on their way to Bjarter's forge. So I am going to get to writing and stop talking for a little bit, but I hope that you guys absolutely enjoy what I'm about to what I'm about to spin for you because I am super excited for you for this part. I've had notes on this part for most of the month. I had one of those shower thoughts and I was like, "Oh my god, this is the answer to everything. It'll be great." So hopefully it will be as great as I'm hoping it's going to be. With no further ado, I'm going to get to writing. If you hear some sounds that sound like a spoon in a coffee cup, that's probably accurate. I have a cup of coffee that is sustaining me. It's my second cup of the day, surprisingly enough. So usually by now I'm on cup number 3. But yeah, so with no further ado, I'm going to get to writing. So I'm not sure how the weather is for anyone else, but right now it's about probably 4 degrees outside with wind chills in the negatives, and we have probably about 4 or 5 inches of snow on the ground. So there are folks outside my building right now trying to mitigate the worst of that before we get another round of snow tonight, followed by a couple more rounds of snow in the next couple of days. So that's going to be some big fun for the for the next few days, I'm thinking. Yeah. So if you hear any weird scraping sounds or any sounds that sound like a motor, it's probably outside. Because I sit right at my sliding glass door is literally right in front of where I sit. So not only do I have an awesome view of outside, but I also get to hear everything going on outside. So, because I didn't read back to tell you exactly how everyone's walking, they're actually going down an alleyway in Darrowmere, which is the city in Mightyar where Beatar has his forge on the far side of town from where the portal is. And after their meeting with Christiana, so Bridget, Tim, Kate, Triskel, and AJ are all headed toward Beatrice's Forge, and they're currently heading down a side street to avoid the chaos that's going on in the market. Which it's not like dangerous chaos; it's just like normal, crazy market day chaos. Oh, hey, that was it yelling at me that I have new follower. Yay! I know who that is because I just saw the email notification too. So, a very happy shout out to my friend Eric, who has been like, oh my god, yeah, a friend for a really, really long time. Even though he's not a giant fan of this universe, he and I argue about what urban fantasy should look like. Good arguments, good discussions, but we have very different conceptions of what some urban fantasy universes should look like, and they don't necessarily always match up. But I love his urban fantasy. It's great. I wish he would write more of it. Um, I think he likes what I write. We never really talk about that anymore. So yeah. trying to figure out whether or not I want to cut this chapter here, or if I want to keep going. Sometimes figuring out how many words are in it helps, and that's probably going to be good for chapter 23. So I am actually going to go ahead and cut the chapter here and go ahead and launch into chapter 24. Bear with me, I don't usually use Word Online for most of my writing. I actually have Word on my computer, but Streamlabs and OBS do not like to window capture for Word, and for some reason display capture isn't behaving itself properly on my computer. It probably has something to do with my video card, and I just have not been able to troubleshoot that at this point. So I've figured out my workaround. It works great. I just have to remember how to use the online version of Word versus the regular desktop version of it. There we go. I will have to fix that later because for some reason it doesn't like to do the complete formatting that it's supposed to do. So I will have to fix that later once I pull it back into the correct, the correct everything. So my goal today is probably to hit at least another 500 words on this project. I think finishing that last chapter actually put me at my chapter goal for the month, which is awesome. Because I figured that if I write about 3 chapters a month for the next couple of months, I should probably hit what I'm assuming is going to be the end of the story. I do have some plans, but as with most of my projects, as I continue to write, more ideas come up and the direction of the story shifts a little bit, which means when I go back to do my editing passes, I basically just tidy some stuff up to make sure that everything makes sense in the context of what actually ends up happening in the story, which, yeah, so fun stuff like that. And I have to go back and do things like, oh, I should probably double check and make sure that I have the right number of outbuildings and BR as a property and all that kind of stuff, because I don't remember off the top of my head how much I described it in the Measure of Dreams, because at the time I was writing Measure of Dreams, it was not that important. But now it kind of is, because even though the story is being told through AJ's eyes, in some ways you're also kind of seeing everything through Bridget's too, because AJ is basically finding out, um, she's basically making this new friend, and they're really kind of introducing Bridget to this wider world of supernatural stuff and traveling beyond the boundaries of Earth and all of that kind of stuff that Bridget really never was aware of before she ended up partnering with Tim in Bearing Songs in Silence. And of course, by later in the series, she's just completely she, she ends up being in charge of a lot of stuff. It's kind of fun and it's kind of funny at the same time, because she just ends up having this sort of world weariness to her, but at the same time she still maintains kind of a sense of wonder about all of it, which is kind of a fun thing to play with. Hello, new follower. At some point, I'll probably have to have Bearcher tell the story about how he threw someone through a fence. But we'll see if that's part of this or not. It might just be a special little deleted scene kind of thing. One of the things that I can't seem to get used to is the fact that this auto saves like all the time. So my obsessive compulsive need to hit the save button all the time, I don't have to do it. I mean, even though like regular desktop Word will do the same thing, I still have experienced problems enough that I don't I don't not click the save button all the time, because the last thing I would ever want is to lose like a 300-400 word chunk of writing, because that's not something you can ever really recover. It just, yeah, it happens and then it's gone and you're like, oh shit, what did I write? Because you're never going to recover it again. Yes, exactly. Save often, save a life. Oh my god. Yes. Yeah, I've seen that. I've also watched, like, I have friends who draw quite a bit and who are actually some really talented artists. And I've watched them do pencil sketches and then be like absolutely paralyzed in fear before they go to ink it. And then once they've successfully inked it, I've seen them like be completely paralyzed in fear to actually start coloring it, because it's like, what if I ruin it? And it's like, dude, you're not going to ruin it. But yeah, no, I can completely understand that. Yes, and I mean, and from what I understand, the computer freezing happens more often than a lot of people like to think that it does, and that's like tragic because I mean, I've had program crashes happen like when I've been working on book covers and stuff, and that's like murder level inducing. I can't even imagine what it would be like if you were actually drawing something, whether you're drawing with the mouse or a tablet. I can't even really. Yeah, that would be like a level of frustration that I can't quite comprehend. But that's because for me drawing is really hard compared to writing, which is a little bit easier. Writing is just like, well, I'm never going to be able to do that again. Crap. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay. All right. Wow, trough should not be giving me that much trouble to spell. Is that supposed to be Bob Ross? I can't tell. Happy little trees. Unhappy little blacksmiths. Confused naval intelligence officers. Yeah, Bjarter and Triskel have a history, and it's one that's never quite been fully explained. But they've known each other for a very, very long time, and there's some debts there, there's some affection there. They're a really interesting kind of dynamic. Okay. I will probably be wrapping this up in the next 10 or so minutes, just so I can actually attempt to be a little bit more productive than I've been on this day off that I took from work. But yeah, we'll see. I might not. I don't know. Father says. Sorry if you hear like random weird strains of lyric. I listen to music while I write, so unfortunately, you guys don't get to hear what I'm listening to, but I do. I have specific playlists for when I'm writing, and yeah, sometimes I can't help myself. Like right now, I'm listening to a song that's very, very much a Tim song. There are a few that are definitely resonate for him as musical inspirations for the character, and songs that really fit the character. In this case, it happens to be the Fighter by the Fray. If you've never heard it, check it out. It's pretty awesome. Another song, so the Fighter by the Fray is the one that I was just listening to. Um, Another song that I really like for him is Demons by Imagine Dragons. And then there's also Castle of Glass by Linkin Park, are all really good songs for him. Um, there's also, oh God, one of the songs for Bridget is actually Glitter in the Air by Pink. Um, Also, I think it's Mercy by Linkin Park. Um, yeah, there's some other songs, and I am blanking on some of them, because some of the songs, part of the problem is that some songs that work well for Bridget also work well for AJ, so I always have to remember which ones are more one than the other, because it's highly situational for the two of them. It's actually kind of fun. But yeah. So the significance of the stone, um, when traveling the portals, it's really important to make sure that you have a way to get home And one of the surefire ways to make sure that you can always find home is to have a stone, a semi-precious stone of some a precious or semi-precious stone of some kind that is native to your planet, came from your planet, and to have that in your possession, and that way you will always somehow find your way back. I never really explain it how that works beyond the fact that that's how it works. You have to make sure that you have something, and that's how you will find your way home. Obviously, when Tim and Matt were taken, they didn't have anything like that. They were in their flight suits. They were flying. So, kind of, not really, but that's probably a good analogy, is the Hearthstone. Um, but obviously, like I was saying, Tim and Matt, when they were taken, didn't have anything like that. But when AJ and Kate came across for the first time, and when they had their encounter with everyone in the Measure of Dreams, when they met Driscoll, when they met Bearter, when they found out what had happened to Tim, exactly what was going on with Tim, AJ had a part in the story where she basically threw everything that she was carrying under a bed in Bearter's house, and she didn't realize it at the time, but in that stuff was the stone that was her stone that she had. So, and she left it there, and Beatrice had promised that he would do everything he could to help, and that's what he's referencing here, is the stone that AJ left behind that first time that she was there. No, that makes sense. It does, because that it kind of does make sense, because you've got the Persephone had to stay because she ate the pomegranate. Usually, it's the pomegranate seeds that you hear in the stories. But yeah, she had to stay 6 months of the year because she ate those pomegranate seeds, and then the rest of the year that she could be with her mom. Which, yeah, interesting stuff there. Interesting parallels, completely unconscious parallels. I just had to figure out a mechanism. Okay, it's like, okay, how do you always make sure you can find your way home? Okay, I think that is probably where I'm going to call it a day for the day. Um, might be back later. I don't know. Probably be back sometime, maybe this weekend. If not this weekend, then sometime during the week, because I would like to get at least one more write stream in before the end of the month, and the month ends this week. But I would like to thank you for joining me for this wonderful write stream this week. And I'm hoping that you will come back and see me again. But thanks again for joining me. If you are interested in following me on Patreon, the link is on the Thanks for Watching page. Otherwise, you can follow me on Twitter at embkdoc or on Tumblr at embklitzke.tumblr.com. But thanks again for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed yourself.